Welcome to the Hollywood Persona Podcast. Here are your hosts, Mitch and Ant.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 61 of the Hollywood Persona. We are recording this on the 19th of June. I am Mitch. That's Ant. We are excited to talk about, we got Inside Out 2. I'm going to talk about a movie that I didn't know was Canadian, but it's Canadian. It's called The Kingtide. And we got some box office, really interesting box office stuff to go over. And yeah, Ant, what else are we going to talk about?
What's coming up this weekend? I'm going to join you with I saw the TV Glow.
Yeah, right.
I think because when I saw that, I didn't really go in depth with it because we knew that you were going to be watching it, so we can really cover that now. And then we're just going to cover some updates on our box office competitions that we're doing.
Yes.
And then I think maybe we wanted to mention that we're broadcasting this live on YouTube as well, or you were before?
Yeah, so this is our second time broadcasting live on YouTube. We are also broadcasting live from the Riverside.fm studio.
Oh, that's cool.
There's a link there, and then it just kind of copies over to YouTube. So
it looks like the YouTube one stopped, maybe?
It stopped?
Yeah, well, I was going to our page to see if it was live now. Let me see.
Oh, no, that's just from me before you got on.
Cool.
I was just excuse me. I was just testing.
Yeah. So, okay. There we go. There we go.
I think we should be live now.
We are.
I've noticed there's a little bit of a delay, but I guess that's what they want, right? It's for a delay in case.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Or something. But
cool. Yeah. And then this coming weekend, there's quite a bit of movies coming out.
I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah. This last one was a little slow just because I think they were giving Inside Out some room.
Yeah,
as far as releases, but now,
let me talk about our box office games. I'll start with our, the one we've had running throughout the year. Mitch and Ant, we have our own studio, and we each pick 8 movies, and then each of us are given a bomb pick, and then we kind of see how our studio does throughout the year. Whoever does better gets to assign the other person a movie at the end of that quarter. So this is for the quarter of May, June, July. Yes. Thank you. Or
I think, right?
No, April, May, June. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then, so what we have had really come out since we talked last is Bad Boys Ride or Die for you, and Inside Out 2 for me. So that Inside Out 2 is going to play pretty clutch for me. That Bad Boys Ride or Die is doing pretty good for you too, but I think it's pretty much slowing down. So it's at 223 million worldwide on a $100 million budget. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but Inside Out 2 is at 379 million on a $200 million budget. That's a pretty high budget, eh? But
yeah.
But so my studio is at 309 million. Your studio is at 495 million. So you are still beating me. But I have A Quiet Place Day 1 on my still to come out, and Kinds of Kindness, and then the bomb you gave me, Thelma, which comes out this weekend.
Yeah. I want to see that. And then what do I have left?
Yeah, you have Horizon, An American Saga, which is going to do well. And I didn't even tell you this, sorry, but I changed your bomb to a movie called Daddy-O, starring Dakota Johnson and Sean Penn.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the trailer for that.
Okay, so that's your bomb. I don't know. It's just something little. Comes out in a few weeks. So. And
you changed that because...
You had Young Woman and the Sea, and that ended up...
Oh, and that ended up not going wide. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little unfair to kind of give you that. So
yeah, and they ended up not even Disney never reported box office numbers for that anyway.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was like Yeah.
thing. I gotcha. Okay.
I think because it only made, but it was a weird release. It was a weird release.
It was weird. Um,
So
yeah. So why
then,
don't you tell us about the summer movie wager, which is through the Slash Film Cast kind of podcast?
yeah. So the summer movie wager, for those listening that don't remember, that is done by the Slash Film podcast. They have a website that tracks it. You pick what movies during the summer will gross the most in order from 1 to 10, and then you have 3 dark horse choices. And there's different point values for if you nailing number 1 is the most important. I think that gets you the most points. Then nailing the next ones go a little bit down as you go down to 10. But right now we're only a point apart. So I have 29 points. You have 28 points. My biggest mistake at the moment would be to put Bad Boys in the 3rd spot. I had put it at 7. That would have yielded me 36 points for 3rd place. And then for you, it's putting back to Black at 8th. If you replace that instead with The Strangers Chapter 1, you would have yielded another 38 points, which would put you in 2nd place.
Yeah, that Back to Black was a poor choice, but
yeah, that was one I thought probably would bite you. Just because I just didn't think that would end up in the top 10. And I'm actually glad. I got to say this too. I sorry to cut you off. Neither of us put the movie If. Oh no, you did. Sorry, you put the movie If at number 7. Yeah. But if is actually kind of clawing its way back. It just crossed the 100 million domestic, and I'll talk about that in a second with the box office numbers. Okay. So it might end up on this list, but I didn't put it on my list at all. I put it as the dark horse choice. Okay. But this competition is really not all that good to look at these numbers until we get kind of towards the end.
Yeah,
because stuff's still shifting.
Yeah.
So you have Deadpool and Wolverine at number 1 and Inside Out at number 2. And that might end up being the case, whereas I have Despicable Me 4 at number 1 and Inside Out at number 2. So since we both have the same number 2, that will kind of cancel out. So if you nail Deadpool and Wolverine at 1, and that means Despicable Me is not number 1, then that'll really boost your numbers too. So yeah, we'll keep following it. It'll end at the end of the summer, which is, I think, right at the end of, I think Alien Romulus is the last one to come. Yeah. So here's what we have left. This is actually a good thing. So Despicable Me 4, Deadpool, Wolverine, Twisters, which comes out next weekend. Or sorry, a month from now, July 19th. Yep. Quiet Place Day 1, Horizon, which you just said, Alien Romulus, which is August 16th. Yeah, that's the last one.
That's kind of the last big, because I remember I put it as a dark horse because it gets like 2 weeks before the Slash Film essentially just ends that contest, right?
Right. Because and I actually have it as a dark horse as well.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's cool. I didn't know I was doing okay. I kind of wish after seeing this that I put Inside Out 2 as my number 1. I think it's going to make more money than Despicable Me 4. I hate to say it.
It did so well.
I don't know why I completely looked over Despicable Me 4, which is so stupid. Anyways,
you have it at number 10.
Oh, I do have it at 10?
Yeah.
Well, that might get me like half a point.
But you have Garfield, If, Borderlands, all making more money than Despicable Me 4. We'll see. I would love, tell you what, man, even though I have Despicable Me towards the top, I would love to see it fail because I just don't like those movies.
I know. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about the box office?
Okay, yeah. So the box office was really awesome this past weekend. So nice to see us finally have a positive story to report on this show. Inside Out 2, of course, opened, and it beat the tracking. The tracking beforehand was just hoping for a $100 million. Hopefully this would be the first $100 million because no movie, even Dune 2, hasn't opened to $100 million. Usually by this time each year, we have 4 or 5 that have opened to 100. So it's really slim pickings at the box office. But then on Friday, Deadline had reported that it was doing about the same as Toy Story 4, which opened to around 120 million. But it then smashed that too and made 155 million domestically in the U.S. and Canada, just over the 3-day weekend, which is just excellent.
I think
It's like,
much like Toy Story 3, I would say, is the best example of Inside Out 2. Is it's great because the young kids are going to go see it, the parents are going to go see it with their families, but us who watched the
yes,
original and now we're older and it's like we want to see what happens, so it's getting a wide range of people going to see it.
yes, big audience pool that will go see this.
Yeah.
This is the second highest animated movie debut ever, right behind Incredibles 2.
Wow.
But I want to put a caveat to that. The Super Mario Brothers would be on this list, but that movie opened on a Wednesday, so it wasn't so that would be here. But
Yeah,
that had a ton of business happen because it was a holiday
sure.
weekend or something. So that's but it still is. And of the top 5 animated movies, all 5 of them did go on to make $1 billion gross worldwide. So Inside Out 2 could get to that number, which is just insane.
Yeah.
Bad Boys 2 had a nice hold of only 40% drop between its last weekend and this weekend, which is really great for its strong opening. So that gave it another 33 million for second place. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, this is just insane. You never, ever, ever see this. So rarely. The last time I remember seeing this was The Greatest Showman, where a movie comes back and increases, because a movie opens and all its fans go. And then next week, less people go because a ton has seen it, and less and less and less. But Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in its 5th week grew 2%. So it's crazy.
See, and this is what I thought Furiosa was going to be.
Me too.
Maybe not that big of a weekend, but we'd see it, in and around the 4, 5 spot, 3, maybe, for a few weeks but it's almost done.
It's dead. It's so dead, and it's so disappointing because listeners, we've said it enough here. It's just such an excellent movie. I took a friend of mine to see it, who is a friend that will go every couple of months with me to a movie. Yeah. And we walked out, and he was like, "Damn, that's a really good movie, man. That's the one." He's like, "Oh man, I hope everyone's seeing this." And I'm like, "Nope, nobody is." And he and I then went to see Bad Boys together as well. And walking out of that one, he was like, "Man, that's nowhere near as good as Furiosa." I'm like, I know. Yeah, it is cool to hear an outsider's opinion from time to time. So then, so that was number 3. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was number 3, growing its box office by 2%. So that puts it at 158 domestically. And then the Garfield movie lost another 52% in its second week, giving it another almost 5 million. So that's at 78 for domestic. And then If, as I was saying just a minute ago, is actually doing okay and has crossed the 100 million mark. And just for comparison, If is at 101 million. Furiosa, which has been out for another week, for a week longer, is it like at half? 63 million is Furiosa's turn.
I remember thinking that If would come in at number 2 under Furiosa that first week of If opening. I remember saying that, If is gonna struggle, and If is still at number fucking 5.
I know, man.
And Furiosa's at 7.
Yeah, it sucks. It really sucks. Yeah, Furiosa only put on another 2.6 million over the weekend, which it was Father's Day weekend, so families and people were out to the theater, so it just sucks, man. But then I have some stats and things I want to talk about with Inside Out 2. So this is the biggest opening of the year so far. I think I said that. Yep. This is the biggest opening since Barbie of last year around this time. Which is
if it wasn't I read something that if it wasn't for Barbie, it would have been the biggest opening in quite a while.
Yeah, like 3 years.
Yeah, but
yeah, and so Barbie opened with 162 million, and this is 155, so they were pretty close. But this is an interesting. This is some more demographic stuff that I just find interesting. I'm not going to tell you and our listeners that this means anything. I just find it interesting.
Yeah.
So at the end of day Friday, so this is from Post Track. Post Track is a competitor of CinemaScore, the company I work for. And they track demographic information, which I've kind of brought up to my boss to see if we can. He said they used to, they've dabbled with it anyway. So by the end of day Friday, 42% of the audience of Inside Out 2 was Hispanic or Latino identifying. So, and then 31% Caucasian. And then by the end of Sunday, that number went down to 40%. But what's interesting, I think, about this is, if you guys remember last episode, I mentioned that Bad Boys 4, the majority of that audience was Black moviegoers. So this is 2 weeks in a row that the top movie at the box office is not Caucasian. And that's just interesting to me because the country, North America, is mostly made up of Caucasian people. It's like 70%. Yeah. So it's interesting that these two movies, 2 weeks in a row, are making lots of money, yet being seen by a minority population. So and that makes me think, and then, well, one last thing, and I'll give my closing thought about it. Inside Out 2, so I did poll audiences for this one. 62%, yeah, I worked it. 62% of the audience was female that attended this movie, which is really large. You usually see around 50% for lots of movies. And then Barbie was 68, so that just goes to show you really how strong this movie was as women saw it. And so what I find interesting about this is, studios want to make what they call a 4-quadrant movie, where it has both. It has all four things. Appeals to all 4 quadrants of demographic: young, old, men, women. Mm-hmm. And you see things like Marvel and Star Wars. Say the Marvels, that Brie Larson movie that did terribly recently. Yeah. That to me looks like Disney trying to get more women involved, but that historically has been, comic book movies has been something men are interested in. Yeah. And so they missed the mark, I think. They were shooting to get women involved, and women said, we don't give a shit about this comic book stuff. Let the guys have that, right? And then same with Star Wars.
I would have really loved to see how Black Widow did in theaters, like, because it came out during COVID and was basically straight
day and date release. Yep.
Yeah. So I would have loved to see how that did compared to the Marvels.
I think I can find that.
Yeah.
I think I can find that. Yeah.
But you wouldn't. But it's not fair, because I'm saying,
because it came out streaming, the same day.
I'm saying it would have been nice to see if it had come out like in the same
good point.
As the Marvels,
to compare it to the Marvels,
exactly. And then, because I mean, Black Widow, everyone knows and loves her. I mean, the Marvels wasn't that great of a movie, and she's not as popular loved as So
good point. That would be a really good comparison point. You're right.
Yeah.
Because you could then, like, and then, for example, what was the first Marvels movie called? Captain Marvel? Captain Marvel. Yeah. That one did really well, but had majority male audience. But to put that one in context, that came between Endgame and Infinity War.
Yes.
So people were like just dying to get any little nugget that they could get. So, that's just some interesting information. Great news. Just, I want to mention the wins when we have them.
I know.
Theaters were happy to see this. No
matter what good news we get this year about box office, there will always be that caveat for me that Furiosa didn't even break 200 million. There will always be that, and it'll always be in the back of my mind.
Yep, it's not even going to break 100 million domestic. It sucks.
No.
Which means we're not going to get Wasteland, which apparently was the next one George Miller was going to make.
I heard they put a complete hold on everything they were planning to do.
And so this demographic stuff gets me thinking. Let's talk about Furiosa. Woman lead character, did that drive some men away?
Yeah.
I don't know. It definitely didn't drive me away. I thought it was, we both thought it was amazing.
one of the manliest men ever. Chris Hemsworth is right there, and
he's basically the main character. Yeah. So
yeah, like
I
they
don't
play
think
against
that's
each other.
true. That question I just asked, I don't think is
No,
really
I know, but
correct.
like people, I mean, right now we're just seeing it. I don't know if you were seeing the online talk about that new Star Wars show, but like it almost makes me just not want to be a Star Wars watcher anymore, just because of the people are just they're politicizing it so much, and I don't know whose fault it is. Maybe it's the creators trying to push too much of an agenda. Maybe it's maybe it's just the fans nitpicking or
Looking
trying to
for every
pull it
little thing.
apart.
Yep.
And I know it's a mix of, but it's more the watchers. It's more the viewers just hating everything Disney's doing with. And if I was Disney, I would just say I would just say whatever. Then fine, we'll sell it. We'll sell it to someone. Like I mean, I would just be like, you guys aren't happy with what we're doing. We'll let somebody else do it. I mean, they tried with Solo, and I think that's a good movie. And they tried a bunch of other stuff, and I don't know. Anyways, um,
Yeah.
so why don't we jump into Inside Out 2? Why don't we jump into a 13-year-old girl's brain? And that is Inside Out 2, which is a just recently released last weekend 2024 film directed by Kelsey Mann. And it is starring the voice talents of Amy Poehler is back as Joy. Maya Hawke is Ethan Hawke's daughter. She is and Uma Thurman's daughter. And she does the voice of Anxiety. Uh, Kensington Tallman does Riley, and then this is the one interesting thing here. They changed the voice talents of Disgust and Fear. It used to be Mindy Kaling as Disgust and Bill Hader as Fear, but now it's Liza Lapira as Disgust and Tony Hale as Fear.
Oh, I
Lewis
didn't
Black.
notice the fear
No, you didn't
change.
notice?
I didn't notice the fear change.
Oh, I see. I noticed the fear, but I didn't notice the disgust. But
And then you have Io Edeberry as Envy, who we've
yep,
seen a lot recently of. She's in the movie The Bear. But then I didn't know this till now that Adele Exarchopoulos from Blue is the Warmest Color was Ennui.
yeah. And then Lewis Black is anger. Phyllis Smith is sadness, and yeah, Grace Liu is in this. Diane Lane does the mom. Kyle MacLachlan does the dad, and then
Yeah.
Paul Walter Hauser basically has a. He barely says anything, but he is embarrassment.
That's so great.
I think he says like one or two lines because
Yeah,
he's
he just kind of mutters.
embarrassed.
God,
Yeah,
I wonder what he got paid to do
I
that.
know, right? I want to know because this movie I just saw cost $200 million, which I was not expecting.
And
Um,
he really makes like just a couple noises. He doesn't really
yeah,
talk.
yeah. So this is a sequel to the I can't remember 2008 I think movie Inside Out.
Yeah, I'll check.
And it follows Riley. She's now in her teenage years, just coming up. She's just turned 13, and at this
2015.
2015. Oh my God, 2008. Um, and yeah, so she has friends. She's at school. She has two best friends, and she loves hockey, which was really cool. I'm like, where are they again? They're in Cincinnati or something.
Yeah, they're up in the Midwest.
And
Yeah, Michigan, Cincinnati, Wisconsin, something like that.
yeah, so I thought they were in San Francisco.
Oh, you might be right. Shit.
But anyways, I was like, I like that
It's
they were playing
surprising
hockey.
because hockey isn't that popular in San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know. So she has two good friends, and they are going on a trip to this hockey camp for like a 3-4 day weekend, where they're going to train. And Riley is really wants to do well because uh, she's loving hockey, and yeah.
Yeah, and
So
she wants to get noticed so she can be on a certain team next year at school, right?
yeah, and then she finds out that her two. This is all very early. She then kind of the inciting incident. She finds out that her two friends are actually going to a different school next year, not the same school as her, And so she tries to make new friends while they're at this hockey camp. And um, inside her brain, there are some new emotions that come out and start to kind of take over her brain as quote unquote puberty hits.
Looms ahead.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so you want to go? What do you? How'd you feel about this one?
So I ended up liking this movie quite a bit, and it gave me lots to think about. It's kind of the classic thing that Pixar does, to where it makes a pretty entertaining movie for kids, but on the way home you realize, or maybe in the theater you realize, wow, holy shit, that was really saying something, or that meant more, or that's very deep. And I think they did a pretty good job here with this. It caused me to have all kinds of thoughts about aging, growing up, and I mean, I think it would also have a much bigger impact on me if I had children that I was watching grow up right in front of me, as you do. Um, but even though I don't, I still remember growing up and feeling lots of feelings like this, and it's a pretty clever narrative device to show your different emotions in our brains fighting for control. And I think a cool thing, maybe you as a parent, or if I were a parent, I would do is like, if I was arguing with my toddler or 6 year old about something, maybe after we watch this movie, I'd ask them, who's in control right now? You know, is anger in
That's
control?
a
Is
good
sadness in
idea.
control? Like, I think it would
Yeah,
make me, I would try and use this movie as an analogy to get them thinking about controlling emotions, because we all
yeah,
have them and they come out in different ways and different times, and other times are more appropriate for others, and especially with a child, right, like in their angry, and I thought this was a cool stepping stone from the first one to the second one,
yeah, for sure.
showing that as you get older and start going through puberty and now into adulthood, more emotions come into play. As a kid, in the first one, I think they have the super ego, id, and ego, which are like our base human emotions, if what I remember from school is right. Um, but as we get older, more emotions come in, ennui and anxiety, as we see in this movie, and they everything gets a little more gray, and it's not um, as cut and dry, right? As a kid, you just feel pure joy 100% of the time, all the time, and you just go from moment to moment to moment of, this is awesome, it makes me happy, and I'll do it all day, every day. Watch the same movie over and over and over, or play with the dog, or go down the slide, or or spend. I'm sure I know you have a pool, so I remember as a kid spending the entire day at a pool and going off the diving board nonstop, over and over and over and over and over and over, and over for hours and hours and hours, and it never got boring, But as an adult, you have other things on your mind. You have
Yeah,
rent and work and relationships, and yeah. So I really liked this. There is a line in here that I thought was really uh, pressing or important,
I did
that
get
really
asked
hit
in
me.
the comments if we will be talking spoilers, and I don't think we need to for this. We will try to stay away from the
Yeah, no, I don't
spoilers.
think we need to spoil anything. But I'll say on that topic, there's some great. I wouldn't call them cameos necessarily, but some really cool and fun other characters that kind of come into play here. Do you know what I'm talking about, Mitch?
No.
There's there's a it references other shows, other kids
Oh,
shows,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and
Yes.
like maybe some video games that maybe Riley's
Yeah.
played. So it does some really
Once we get to
creative.
the vault. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. There's some
Yeah.
and it was really creative. And at first I'm like, whoa, what is this? Um, but Joy. So if you remember the first Inside Out, Joy is the main character for the most part and is in control the whole time. In this movie, she has a comment about that was really like almost got me choked up, where she says something like, "I guess as we get older, we have less joy," where
Yeah.
she's kind of seeing that she has to step aside and let anxiety or ennui or whoever else take the controls.
Yeah.
And that was crushing, because
Yeah.
I feel that often. Um, and like I was just saying, as a kid, you can jump off the diving board for 8 hours straight, where joy is in control the entire time. But as you get older, that's just not the case. Other things come into play,
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really cool to show how, as we get older, emotions get more complex. You have more combinations of emotions that get blended together. So it's not just pure joy, it's joy, but also anxiety. You're worried about how you look or what other people think of you, you know. Um, so yeah, I thought it was great, man. They I just don't know what they'll do from here, because to take the next steps, they would have to kind of go full into puberty and, you know, get into the idea of
I
sexuality.
I know
And this is a
it's
PG Disney movie,
yeah.
so I don't know what they'll do, but yeah, I thought it was great. What did you think? What did your kids
I
think?
yeah. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, I took both the boys, and I teared up for sure. And so on the car ride home, I said, and I asked Atticus if he teared up, and he said yes. He said no at first, and then he was like, "Well, yeah, I guess I did at this one part," and I don't want to give it away, but he told me, and and then I said, "Yeah, that's about where I teared up to." And then I said to Max, "What do you give it?" And he said, 3 stars." And I said to Addie, what do you give it?" And he's like, 5 stars. So, but he's been really hyped for this movie ever since he saw the first trailer, and
Good.
yeah, we had a lot of fun. At first, I found it to be like once there's a lot of setup with the
Friends?
human characters and stuff, and once we get going there, and once you're into the person's head, Riley's head, you really get an understanding and of what's going on, and
I
it becomes very hectic. I found at
Yeah.
times, but then I realized that's kind of what they were going for, and I think that ends up tying all together. So at first, I'm like, "Whoa, this is a lot! Like, there's a lot going on here." If you're a fan of the first movie, I think this movie does a really good job of not giving you the exact same movie, or you
Yes.
know there's obviously like little nuggets, and they're in the same place, and a lot of, but it's like all new ingenuity and exciting, the lands and what's going on. There's a lot of great ideas here, and it is funny because they end up having to take a journey, and one person is left back at the station, and it's like literally opposite of what happens in the first movie.
Yep.
So
There was a
yeah.
nice nod to the first movie. Did you notice it when there was my hat was written on the inseam of the hard helmet that the like puberty police guys came in when they were knocking everything over. In the first movie, she had something that said "my hat" on it.
Oh, I don't
So I
remember
think
that.
that I saw this kind of 1.5 times because I worked it and then I went and saw it. Um,
Yeah,
I really liked the character design of Anxiety.
yeah, they did a really good
The
job.
frazzled hair, and this is in the
Yeah,
trailer, so and her just being like, "Well, I don't know, I'm not sure, and I got to take
yeah,
over," and then her
yeah.
like whipping around the control center.
Yeah,
Um,
that part is the one part that's really getting a lot of people, and I deal with anxiety. I mean, we all do. Let's be real. And so there's definitely a moment in here where, like, as an adult, I was sitting there watching, like, wow, this is hitting me pretty hard.
Definitely,
And I had one friend. Actually, I saw someone posting who I know, and they were saying that it helped them understand anxiety better because
yeah,
they don't have as much as their partner does, as their wife does, they said. So he said like, now I have a better idea of, and he's like a 40 something year old man. He's like I
exactly.
have a better understanding of anxiety. And I'm like, wow, that's
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is such a great way to frame how
yeah,
our emotions work, and that's
yeah,
what Pixar has been in the past so good at doing,
exactly,
is putting on a screen what feelings are like in a tangible sense, whereas we
yeah,
kind of just think of them all nebulously floating around.
yeah.
Um, I did notice something the other second time I saw it, or the half time I saw it. So to go along with what I mentioned earlier about Joy saying, as we get older, we have less time for joy. So, and I just noticed this on the second time when we go into and this is in the beginning, and this is my own analysis, not a spoiler. Um, when we go into the mom's head, so Riley is having a fit. She's becoming a teenager, so she snaps at her mom. So we go into the mom's head. Do you remember who was in charge in the mom's head? Sadness is the one who is in charge.
Yeah.
It's not the
Yes.
Joy character. And maybe that's because she was sad that Riley snapped at her. But then, and also in the dad's head, it's not Joy who's in charge there. So I think the movie is subtly saying to us, as we get the quote that I mentioned, we have less time for Joy. Both her parents, who's in charge upstairs, is not the Joy character. And that's profoundly sad, but it's kind of true.
Yeah, it is. And I've seen also a lot of people, if you really want to get into Pixar lore, a lot of people are chatting about like the only times we see emotions that have separate like female and male in people's heads is in the kids' heads. In the parents' heads, like the dads, it's all male.
Oh,
moms,
that's great.
Female.
Oh,
So
I didn't
people
think
are
of that.
kind of like, why, is it a they're trying to figure it out kind of thing? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, so with that train of thought, you could be arguing as a child your gender identity isn't necessarily locked in yet.
Yeah. So that's been a whole like topic
of discussion. Great. I bet you could write you could write a psychologist thesis about that.
Yeah. So that's what like they could discuss once they get, if they do an Inside Out 3, which I think is going to be, it's going to be a challenge for them to write, because especially I think they handled this one really well. And I'll just say one final thing. The school I work at, the kids were taking a field trip to go see this yesterday. And
cool.
And last week they just were teaching the whole the classes health. They went through like health, which is like talking about puberty and stuff. So I messaged like one of the teachers and I said, oh my gosh, this is, like, you're not going to believe this. I know this just happened to be the movie coming out of this time, but they discuss puberty and stuff in Inside Out 2. So
yeah, and they handled it well,
really
they handled it really well. You see this in the trailers. Puberty comes in as a wrecking crew, and they're like, oh, we're making changes over here, and they're destroying everything, and the original character's like, what are you doing? And again, that's such a great visual representation of what puberty's like, because all of a sudden your hormones are coming in, and you'll just get pissed at your mom for no reason, or behave totally differently than you have before,
And I loved all the stuff about like the repressing memories and repressing, this movie is a lot about like, I'm a good person, and it's like I'm gonna push all the bad stuff away. Anyways, we won't get into anymore. I don't. That's spoilers.
And that's Joy. That's what Joy is doing, right? She's like, all right, that's a bad memory. Let's push it way to the back.
Let's push it away,
and it's like, well, that's gonna come back at some point, right?
Yeah, exactly. But anyways,
so I gave this 3.5 stars. It's probably worth 4, but I don't know, and I don't think we said this yet either. It's an hour and 37 minutes. It went by really quick.
It did. It felt like, me and the kids were in and out. I knew we had somewhere to go after, and I wasn't checking my watch, but I was like, wow, okay, it's still daylight, and we can get to this thing. And
when I was working as the pollster to poll the audience, I'll hand out the ballots as people walk in, and then I'm like, all right, cool. I can sit down and watch the movie. I got a lot of time to do it, but I'm like looking at what other showtimes are ending soon, because I'll get people coming out of the ones that have already entered before I got there. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, this is, then I look up the runtime. I'm like, wow, this is the quick turnaround. So, I just want to mention that 2 years ago, Lightyear came out this weekend, which totally bombed. Nobody liked it. Nobody saw it. So they did something right here.
It is funny though, seeing the people that are now like, Pixar can do no wrong, and it's like, you have just been hating on Lightyear, Soul, Luca, and the other
Turning Red.
Turning Red, those are their last 4 movies, and you have been hating on them. So to all of a sudden, like I've seen people like it's Pixar, so obviously it's great, and it's like, well, you haven't thought so, but okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, um, I'm going to talk about my surprise movie right now.
Okay.
I think if you could take a guess, you could guess what I watched. I kind of texted you and told you I was going to watch this. But this is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2.
Oh my God. You watched this?
I did.
Did
well,
you see the first one?
Yeah, we both saw the first one.
Okay.
So we have to watch the second one.
You do.
Aunt hated Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and I did too, but something just I had to see this, and basically it's Christopher Robin. He has left the 100-acre wood. Winnie the Pooh and Piglet basically tried to kill him in the first movie, and he returns to his childhood home of Ashdown to seek help, and the corpses are retrieved. Man, this movie is so weird. Like, so the corpses are retrieved, and he is like not. He's not a suspect because they know it wasn't him, but like the whole town thinks it was him that killed like the girls from the first movie.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it reminded me a lot of like the last Halloween movie, Halloween Kills or whatever.
Halloween Ends.
Yeah, right, obviously. Because it's all about Christopher Robin. And he's like a good actor. Like he is acting his ass off, like
wow,
crying and like he's going to like he's going to therapy. It's all about him. So and then now we've got Tigger and Owl in this one.
Okay, finally. Where were they in the last one? I don't know why.
I don't know. That's what I looked up. I was like, "Where's Eeyore too?" Because they do have the rights for Eeyore, and they ate him in the first one.
Oh, right.
Which I completely forgot.
And I want to state this: why I hated the first one so much has nothing to do with me having any soft feelings for Winnie the Pooh. Of course, I watched it as a kid, but I don't care about it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a terribly made movie, and it was just a cash grab.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't like it.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that. This one I gave 2.5 stars to. It's silly, but it's an above average horror movie. I would rather watch this than The Strangers, and I mean, but it takes itself way too seriously is the problem. Like Tigger shows up in the last act, like all of a sudden, like, oh, here he is, like the big bad, and he's got the claws and he's just ripping girls apart. And there's a scene in this movie that was reminiscent to me of the scene in. Did you see the Texas Chainsaw remake that went right to Netflix?
The 2021 one, yeah.
Yeah, and you know that scene where he goes into the bus with the chainsaw? And
yes.
There's a scene almost just like this in this movie. And it's in a party, and Tigger's just going through like this party and just ripping people apart.
Sounds like this is better. I might.
It is.
They must have had a bigger budget, and
the budget was $7.6 million.
Oh God, yeah, that's way bigger.
Yeah, and
the first one was like under $1 million, I think.
Yeah, and the owl the owl is the big character of this one. It's really he's creepy looking. It's actually, I don't know. It's just obviously the first one was shit, so I think this one is just like okay.
Yeah, you have nowhere else to go but up.
They did something here, yeah.
So I want to mention something I just read that I don't know if this is true. So anyone listening, take this with a grain of salt. But the top review on Letterboxd for this says, quote, "The studio behind Pooh, Blood and Honey just announced their plans for a cinematic universe consisting of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan, Neverland Nightmare, Pinocchio Unstrung, all culminating in Pooh-niverse Momsters Assemble, which will include all the characters from previous movies plus characters from Alice in Wonderland and Sleeping Beauty, doing an Avengers-style team-up with their sleep paralysis demon versions of public domain children's characters." That's kind of funny and clever.
Yeah.
That could be interesting, but damn, that's another 3 movies to go.
Yeah, so they hint at those movies in the
okay.
Post
credits.
not in the credits. They show really actually well drawn, creepy versions of like Bambi and then Pinocchio and and like hinting that this is what's to come. So
Well,
uh,
damn.
yeah, and John says in the show notes that he loved it. Actually, I think
Really?
I think we watched it together.
You
Um,
know, the
he gave it.
mask looks better than the first one too. Like
Yeah.
the
They do some different things with the eyes where it look actually doesn't look just like a. I mean, take it for what it is. Sometimes I like these B movie like shit. Sometimes it's just fun for the kills and the gore.
yeah, like
And
Terrifier, right? Like we have stuff like
yeah,
Terrifier and Terrifier 2. Did you and John see that one?
yeah. I don't know if John. I think I saw Terrifier 2 with John. Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, we went to like this cool midnight screening, and they gave everyone puke bags. I still have it and
That's pretty
everything.
funny.
Yeah, it was really cool. So
Yeah, so like those have their place in
yeah,
horror. So
for
maybe
sure,
something like this can have its place too, I
for
don't want
sure.
to yuck anybody's yum. And I might I'm my left eyebrow is raised a little bit for this one.
I think you would come back and say, Mitch, what the fuck are you talking about? But I think if you are, this is only for horror fans. I think some horror fans might have a problem with it because it does take itself too seriously and it does spend too much time with Christopher Robin, like crying to a therapist, trying to understand what happened and, all that. And it's like, who cares? But I know they need a little filler so the movie's not 45 minutes. But yeah, anyways, that is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Blood and Honey 2. Um, why don't you talk about Treasure?
Okay, yeah, this will be quick and then we can finish up with I saw the TV glow.
Okay, just actually pause for 1 minute. I'm going to grab a beer.
Sure.
I know we're on live. Sorry, everyone. I'm grabbing
That's
a beer.
okay. I'll just start talking about Treasure. So Treasure is really something I only saw because I needed something to see. It's in theaters. It got some notoriety at Cannes and TIFF, maybe. So this is 2024, directed by Julia von Hines, and it really stars just Lena Dunham and Stephen Fry. Do you know Stephen Fry?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the story's like this. So Lena Dunham is an American journalist. Her name's Ruth, and then her father, Edic, he's a Holocaust survivor. And they take a trip to Poland to kind of go through some of the history of the Holocaust. Like we saw this with Tony Erdmann, and there's one other movie that was just like this. I forgot, but Tony Erdmann. Do you remember that title name?
I do, but I never saw it.
Yeah, it was like Oscar nominated back in 2018 or so. And so she's a writer. She's neurotic, and her dad is the kind of guy who will talk and shake hands with every stranger he meets. He becomes best friends with every stranger he meets. She has this meticulous plan set out for the things they're going to do and see while they're in Poland.
Her dad Stephen Fry?
Yeah, her dad's Stephen
Okay.
Fry. And he's very jolly. And, he has this thick accent where every time he's talking, it's supposed to be funny. So he'll say something like, she's waiting for him to come out of the airport terminal for way too long. All the passengers have exited. He comes out and she's like, "Where the hell have you been? I've been waiting for you." And he's like, "Oh, my suitcase, it fell apart. So this nice man from the TSA helped me tape it up," and that's supposed to be like a laugh line.
So he's not doing it as British, like he's putting on an accent?
He has a very thick European accent of some kind, not British.
Why would they do that?
Don't really know.
That's so dumb.
So yeah, it's like father-daughter kind of go on discovery, and I found it kind of really dry and not that interesting at all. I think for some people it might work really well. I think maybe fans of Lena Dunham will love this. She's actually pretty good in this. I don't know much about her. I texted you saying I know people don't like her for some reason or another. I don't remember her from anything. I just knew her name. But yeah, so it's father-daughter tour Europe. It's rated R for language, I think. And yeah, I found this hard to get through. It's just really boring, not interesting.
Hmm.
Um, but it's hard for me to relate to some of this stuff, to the stuff in the movie. But that doesn't usually preclude me from enjoying a movie, because even stuff I can't relate to has been really good before. So I'm gonna just kind of leave it at that. If you like Lena Dunham or Stephen Fry a lot, or you have any ties to Holocaust, I think you might find this interesting a little bit. But other than that, and you know what I mean, you laugh, but what I mean by that is,
No, I know.
if you're Jewish or have Jewish parents that
Yes.
died in the war or something like that,
Sorry, I
grandparents.
didn't mean to laugh. I just meant, yeah.
No, well, since you laughed, I wanted to clarify what I meant.
Right. I just meant like that's just such a small, but
Yeah,
it isn't.
yeah.
I guess there's a lot of Jewish people and stuff. In my
Right,
movie.
right. Or grandparents that died in the war or fought in the war, like then you might find, like, I could see someone whose grandfather died in World War II, being, Jewish family, finding some warmth to these characters, and maybe them thinking like, oh, I bet that's like my mom and my grandfather. But that's about it. It was really
Okay.
kind of hard to get through. It's almost 2 hours. And the humor just didn't work on me. While I watched it, I saw one couple leave. So I went to a 10:30 p.m. showing, and to my surprise, there was 6 people there, which for a movie like this, and for
Yeah.
it being that late on a weeknight. And then, man, the old couple that was near me, it sounded to me like he was explaining to the movie to her line
Oh.
by line the whole movie, and
I thought it was gonna be something bad.
oh, it drove me nuts. No, they just like everything. He was just like telling her what the movie was about as we watched it. I'm just like, Jesus. And that's why I go to late movies, is so I can avoid people most of the time. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's Treasure 2024.
What'd
It
you
will be
give it?
streaming soon. I gave it 1.5 stars. Yeah, because the acting's good, set design. Actually, yeah, one last thing. The set design costumes look very 1990s. This is set in 1990, so they go to a 1990 hotel. There's a phone with a cord on it in the hotel, like
Yeah.
it's all in the taxi they drive in, and even the setting looks very gray and dull of cloudy Europe. So that's why it gets its 1.5 star. But other than that, skip it. Pretty boring. I
Okay.
will probably forget this. So let's talk about I Saw the TV Glow.
Okay, but first, Brandon Bonnet wants us to skip to Bad Boys.
Brandon, we covered that last week. Go to our last episode. That's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
So you can listen
Sorry,
to last
Brandon.
week's episode.
Yeah.
Wait, did we post last week's episode?
Yeah, I was very late, and I apologize.
Yeah, Brandon, go listen to last week. We covered it.
Yes. So yeah, I saw the TV Glow. I saw the TV Glow, and God, that joke will never not be funny. I think last week I was saying to people that Jane Schoenbrunn, who directs this, I was saying that her first movie was Skinamarink, and it's not. It was.
Oh yes, you did.
We're All Going to the World's Fair.
I can see why you got those confused.
I do in my brain. I like Skinamarink more than the World's Fair. But my friend Quinn Latendre, he commented on my review where I did the exact same mistake. And so I thought I'd bring that to
I'm glad you did, because I was almost committing that to memory too.
Yeah, I know. It's like they're very bleh.
Yeah, they're kind of similar.
So it's I was just gonna say, you were talking about the 90s. This movie, it does very well with its set design in the 90s. Just a quick review, because I know oh my God, I was gonna call you Anderson. I know Ant talked about it last episode. But there is a young kid meets a girl who's a little bit older, and there's this TV show called The Pink Opaque, and I've heard people kind of connecting it to what they used to call Nick at Night. I don't know what that is, but for me, the show looks like a Goosebumps or you know,
Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was a Canadian thing.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Something like that. And it was on late, and it was a little spooky for the kids, and so he meets this girl, and he's kind of like captivated by the girl, and then wants to watch the show, so he starts watching the show, and he's like sneaking out to go watch the show at her place and stuff, and they've got a weird relationship. It's not like anything sexual or anything.
Yeah, no romantic there. He just thinks she's the cool older chick.
Exactly. She's like, wow, he's so cool. She's so cool. and actually she's a lesbian, and yeah, so essentially, and then I don't really know what more to say about the plot, but they're obsessed with the show, and then one day Maddie, the girl, goes missing, and I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, she takes the show very seriously.
Very seriously.
Thinks that it might be real to some extent, or
yeah, to a lot of extent.
To a lot, yeah.
And this is another one of those movies where it's more about the vibe, I guess. And if you're enjoying the vibe, then good for you. It is like my friend Ken Cunningham literally just told me today. It's he. I don't know if he would say that about this movie, but he saw another movie that he called stylized nonsense, and I love that because this is a little bit of stylized nonsense. There's definitely some, like, there's a plot, there's a follow through. You know where it's going. I don't think the ending was very satisfying.
Me neither.
And in our last episode where we did talk about it, Ant was talking about how the little boy doesn't look like the actor when he's a little bit older, who is Justice
Smith.
What?
Justice Smith.
Yeah, Justice Smith.
And you guys know him from Jurassic.
Yeah, Jurassic World, and Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. He is the skinny black guy
who's a total coward.
Yeah, and so I didn't.
But
understand.
I think he was good in this. I do.
I said to Ant, I texted him. I said, I don't understand. Ant felt like the kid, the jump from the kid to the adult. He said the kid doesn't look anything like Justice Smith. But what this movie does is it has this like 8-year-old kid playing a younger version of Justice Smith, and then all of a sudden it jumps 2 years and it's Justice Smith. You don't go from this like cute little like boy and then all of a sudden it's Justice Smith, and then they've got him playing all the ages, because it does jump time. Like it'll be like 2 years and then 5 years and then 8 years or something, right? And it's always just Justice Smith, and
he's probably 25 in real life.
Yeah, and the only thing they did to make him seem younger is like shave his beard right down, because he's got that stubble, and that's like all they did. And then it was just really odd.
But so at first you thought like, oh, I don't get what you were saying, but then when you saw that the time jump was only 2 years,
I was like, what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah. And movies have to do this, right? Like, to portray their younger self. But for example, we just saw this in Furiosa. This little girl plays Anya Taylor-Joy as a 10-year-old, and then we jump to Anya Taylor-Joy, who's probably 30 or in her 30s.
Yeah.
And they did that, and maybe they used CGI, but that was seamless and executed perfectly.
It was.
And this is a lower budget movie, so we can't go that hard on it, but it was jarring.
Yeah. So in the end, I didn't really get a whole lot out of this.
No, okay. I thought there was a chance you might. But yeah, I ended up like this movie. I think that the neon set design and stuff was really cool and done well. Some really cool shots of foggy, misty woods and trees.
Yeah.
And it did good with the nostalgia for the 90s.
For sure it did. Like,
right.
I used to sit every Friday night. My mom would get us popcorn. We were able to sit up and watch. But we were able to watch Boy Meets World and then Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Mm-hmm.
And that was every Friday night. And Sabrina wasn't like scary, but it was like along the same line where it's like serialized and there's monsters and whatever. And we loved it. But I just think this director, the internet really fucked her up, I think. And she's really trying to show us that TV and internet really have messed her up, and there's definitely an audience for this.
Right, this will find its audience for sure.
It is, I think, and
it has.
Here's the thing: there is stuff in here about being trans, maybe asexual. I can't.
You can read it that way. Yeah.
You can read whatever you want, but I don't think it's done well enough.
Mm-mm.
I don't think like there's a scene where we see that the Justice Smith's character might be wearing a skirt, but you don't even get to see him in the skirt, really.
Yeah.
And like, and then there's a part where
but wasn't that part of a costume?
No, no, because it showed him.
Oh, because the costume is the dress, right? Isn't he? He's wearing a dress. I thought he was wearing a costume for some type of stage production or something at school where he was wearing.
I know he goes to the girl's house and Maddie's house, and they're like, she's like, he's not really saying what he's. I don't want the movie to come right out and say, hey, I'm trans, or I'm asexual, or I'm still, but it could have like played its cards a little bit more towards the audience, because I had no idea. Like, there's definitely those hints there, but I didn't understand.
Okay, so yeah, and so some people are reading it that way, and but if I hadn't been told that, I probably wouldn't have picked up on it.
Yeah.
And this line is in the trailer. She and him are on the bleachers at school, and she says, "Hey, I'm a lesbian. If you're interested in me, like," and I'm paraphrasing. "I'm a lesbian. If you're interested in me, you're wasting your time." And she asks him, "What are you?" And he just says, "Oh, I just like to watch TV." And that's all the vocal explanation we get for it. The rest is in cues, and you have to kind of pick up on it. I don't like
the style of filmmaking where it's like, okay, figure it out yourself, and then like you go and talk to the director or the writer, and they're like, well, who knows? And it's anyways, that's I Saw the TV Glow. I gave it 3 stars.
Me too.
Because I think it is an incredibly well-made movie. I want this woman to keep making movies.
Definitely.
I think the acting was great. I didn't like Justice Smith at first. So it's a 3-star movie. I can't physically give it any lower than that, as much as I will never watch it again, because it's a beautiful movie.
That's kind of we kind of feel the same. Like it's not for me. I didn't love it, but it's made well enough, and the acting's done good enough that like these people care. I got to give it a positive review.
I felt the movie. It's one of those movies where I felt I was inside the world. I was like
total vibe movie. Vibe movie.
Exactly. If you get high, I think this is one where you could get high to and maybe vibe with.
Yeah, or if you took mushrooms, it might scare the shit out of you by the end.
Might.
Because there's some trauma as we get to the end.
I don't want to. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but I really like the ending when he's a little older and he ends up watching the show again.
Yes, that was really cool. That was really
cool. I loved that and how they did that.
Because that's a feeling we've all had at some point. We love a show. And speaking of Are You Afraid of the Dark, years ago I went and downloaded a torrent, which was all seasons and episodes. And there was a few, like Zeke the Plumber was an episode I remember being scared of. And there was a couple others, and I sent them to my sister. I'm like, I found these old episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I remember being terrified of them as a kid and thinking they were scary. Watching it as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, that mask looks so goofy, and how could I ever be scared? And this movie does something on that order. So that was very relatable.
It was very well done. There's a lot, everything in this movie is well done. So whatever. If this sounds like it's I don't know what the word is, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's streaming.
I think on Shudder or
Shudder or Tubi, one of the second tier streaming service, I guess I would say.
So I think the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I really want to talk about it because this movie kind of came and went. Do you remember seeing trailers? And I'm really interested to hear. Do you remember seeing trailers for this movie called The Kingtide?
By title, no. Let me just pull it up.
So, do you remember hearing in the trailer? It was like "All Hail Isla." Kept being repeated in the trailers. All hail Isla. All thanks to Isla. We give our thanks to Isla. So,
like the body and the blood from The Exorcist.
Kind of.
No,
Uh,
but tell me about the movie while I search it
yes.
up.
So, the Kingtide, and the reason I'm curious about this is because the Kingtide is a 2023 Canadian drama thriller, and so I'm wondering if that's why I am the only person who have heard of it, and it came and went, um, like out of nowhere, and so I'm like, and it's out right now. You can rent it. So I rented it for $6.99, and it's about this uh, island that's out in like Newfoundland, I'm guessing,
It kind of
and
looks
it's
like Aquaman, where
yeah,
Aquaman, or yeah,
basically
where
the
Aquaman would live.
essentially yes, like an island, and a boat kind of like two fishermen are out there like looking out of the water, and they hear a baby crying, and they go down, and there's a baby in the boat, and this couple the same day this couple had lost a baby, and died in childbirth. Um, so they take this child in, and it jumps 10 years later, and Isla is 10 years old, and she has magical healing abilities. So all somebody has to do is be around her, and whatever they have wrong with them is healed. The one character's mother has dementia, and if she's away from Isla for a couple days, um, her dementia starts to come back.
Interesting.
Uh, and so every morning, anybody who needs to see her, she just sits in a pillow fort kind of thing in her house, and people come in, and they joke, like they come in, oh hey Isla, and she's like, oh, were you have a few too many beers last night, and like she cures his hangover, like she doesn't have to touch them, nothing, just has to
Mm.
be in the vicinity. So at some like, and this is the inciting incident, and I don't want to give too much more away, but uh essentially her powers go away, and it's and this island for 10 years has relied on her, and it's how what is the future of this island, uh what happened to her powers, and it's like a really interesting mystery. I would say it's like very 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 light horror, but it's more just like a thriller drama, and I really enjoyed it. The only actor I knew was Frances Fisher, who
Yeah.
you would know as she played the rich mom in Titanic.
Oh yes, yes.
Um,
Oh, and
and
she's one of the women in Unforgiven, the famous Clint
Unforgiven,
Eastwood movie. Yeah.
and she's got long, very long, like white hair, and she's like the biggest star, but it's a really well done movie. I gave it 3.5 stars.
It has 3.5 on Letterbox, so that's a pretty high
Yeah,
score.
I just like I want to get the word out there for this movie because it's a good movie. It came out April 26th, 2024 in Canada and the United States. I don't know if it got a theatrical release or
Yeah, I'm
not, but
looking because how did I miss? This is something I would totally see. You know?
yeah, I that's why I was like shocked when it kind of came and went, but I guess it's a Canadian thing. That which is just shocking because
Yeah,
they
it doesn't look
really.
like it got to the box office.
I probably saw 10 trailers for this, and then I never saw it in theaters around me. So they really kind of fucked up with that because it's a good movie.
The poster looks like the Antlers poster. So the poster is a little baby with a bunch of people's hands
Yeah,
reaching out to her.
because they kind of
Cool.
figure out that she can heal when she's very young, but then
Yeah, in the trailer you
yeah,
see her cut or someone's cut on their hand just seal up, or someone cuts their hand purposely to show them. Echo.
sorry about that.
Oh,
Hmm.
cool, man. That's a really cool movie. That's the Kingtide, and that looks awesome. And these are the type of movies that um, I would hope other people would check out when they hear here, because where else would they have heard it from?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm getting just like some feedback or something. I don't
That's
know.
okay.
I I think I need a new cord.
Let's see if it's still. No, it seems to be gone.
Yeah, seems to be gone. I think I
So
need a new cord. Sorry about that,
that's
everybody.
okay. We can close here. I just want
Yeah.
to mention what's coming to theaters. Um, so yeah, I'll mention this. So Kinds of Kindness is highly anticipated. The next Yorgos Lanthimos movie. If my friend Brandon is still watching, that's the director that we got kicked out of the theater for laughing so hard at when we went to see Killing of the Sacred Deer. Um, the ending scene of that movie. I mean, he and I were very drunk, but there was this guy that was just so pissed that we were laughing, but it was causing us to laugh. We were that scene where uh, not Ethan Hawke, Colin Farrell is hopping around deciding which of his family members to
Oh
murder
my gosh.
is so insane. We
It's
were like,
probably the most darkest,
it's really dark.
funny moment I've ever seen in film.
So
Oh my
that
God.
director has another movie coming out that I
Yes.
saw the last 5 minutes of, which I really shouldn't have done that. But I was kind of, when I go to the theater, I always kind of, I want to live at the theater for God's
I
sake.
know.
So I just
And of
hop around to different.
course, sorry, of course, Yorgos Lanthimos is what I was going to say. Is he just won Best Picture for Poor Things? Did Poor Things win Best Picture?
No, but I think Emma Stone won for Best
Yeah, Emma
Actress.
Stone. So and Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe are both going to be in this again, and they were in Poor Things, which came out and had a lot of awards play. So sorry to cut you off.
No. So all I was gonna say was I was just hopping around, theater hopping, and like
With a
waiting for my
shotgun.
movie to start, or after my movie ended, I was just walking to something else. So I walked into a theater to see what was in there, and it was Kinds of Kindness, and so it was the Atlanta Critics screening for it. I'm like, fuck, I need to get on this list. That's a goal
Were
of
there
mine with
any?
this podcast, is to get
Yeah.
to be invited to critic screenings, because they
Were
happen all
there
the
any
time here.
empty seats? Did you see or no?
There weren't that many, but I could have gotten to the front and just dealt with sitting in row A.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's coming. That's limited this weekend, and then I think wider next. Then we finally have The Bike Riders, which is the Austin Butler Tom Hardy movie.
Yeah.
I
That was
think this was a
pushed and
COVID
pushed.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
No, it was. It was originally supposed to come out, and then they pushed it because they wanted it to get some award buzz, and then the SAG stuff, so they pushed it again because of the strike, and then they lost their buyer, like the
Right.
production company, and then
Yes.
so it's been bought by another company. So now it's finally coming out.
Yeah, so I'll be seeing that this weekend for sure. And then The Exorcism. This has come out of nowhere. Me and you, I don't know about you, but I didn't know about this movie until Monday. This
Oh,
past
really?
Monday.
I've seen a lot of like memes online about because it's not a sequel or anything. It's not
Right.
related to his other
He was
exorcism
just
movie.
in an
Yeah,
exorcism movie where he rides the little Vespa.
yeah,
But there's another Russell Crowe exorcism movie, and
yeah,
that last one was pretty good. So there's that. And
yeah.
then Thelma, which we mentioned either to each other or on this podcast. It's like an old lady going crazy in a funny way type movie. You said it's 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, which that's pretty cool. I'm definitely going to see that. And then, do you want to mention these next three, or do you want me to just zip them off?
I think. Um,
So, Midsommar is coming
yeah.
June 20th, which is the actual solstice, the midsummer
Oh,
solstice.
right. Cool.
And I don't know if I'm going to go see this again. So, I did see this, of course, in theaters. I really loved it. You got Florence Pugh, and it turns into a really crazy horror movie. Actually, the opening scene is one of the best
It is
openings of a
very
movie.
dark.
It's
Very
really
scary.
dark, but so
Yeah.
cool, and really cool shot in a
I
cool way.
did not appreciate this as much as I should have when I first saw it, and I would go see it again in theaters. It's from the same director Ari Aster as Hereditary,
As
which
our
is like
beloved
one of my
Hereditary.
one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So, and then The Boy in the Woods is a movie that's coming out limited. I don't know too much about that. And then I Am Celine Dion is a coming straight to Prime Video.
Yeah, I saw that
Celine
showing
Dion is
this
a.
weekend.
Oh, is it coming to theaters a bit?
Yes, yeah, it's coming to the AMC near me. Man, mentioning Celine Dion, I have to mention the movie Aline. Did you ever hear
Okay.
about that?
No, is it about her life, kind of?
Yes, but it is crazy, and it's by a Canadian too. The movie Aline, pull it up real quick. Aline was made by an obsessive Celine Dion fan. I'm talking like really scary Celine Dion fan. But what's interesting and weird about this movie is this 40-year-old woman plays Celine Dion at age 8, 15, 25, 40, and 55.
What the fuck?
So I mean this when I say they take a 40-year-old woman and try to make her look like she is 8 years old. It is so creepy and unsettling. And then, when she's 14 or 15, just like the real life Celine Dion, she has a very pretty inappropriate relationship with her manager, whatever. But you can tell that this woman in the movie, the woman stars in it, directed it, wrote it, and at a Cannes, it was like people were like going crazy, like, what the hell is this? Blah, blah, blah. It was in theaters for a short time. And it's one of the most weird and interesting, I don't know, vanity projects or just fan-made film. So every time I see Celine Dion, I'm like, I wonder if Celine Dion were to watch it, I'm sure she would be horrified.
I'm sure I don't know, she might have, but yeah.
It's wild. It's wild. Because Celine Dion's from Quebec?
Yeah, so it's yeah. So apparently sorry,
you're good.
Just been informed we're getting a major storm warning, and I can hear the thunder and lightning now. So that's probably what was going on earlier. But yeah, she's going through some major health problems, and she's a very interesting woman. She's got an amazing voice, so I'd be excited to see that.
Yeah, I'll definitely see it. And from that movie Aline that I watched, if any of that is true, she had a pretty interesting upbringing. She was in a home with like 13 kids. Parents were super religious. She started singing for the church, and then she just blew up to superstardom.
Yeah.
But The Boy in the Woods, I want to just mention, that was a competitor at the TIFF Film Festival last year. And it's the remarkable true life story of a Jewish boy hiding in and being hunted in the forests of Nazi-occupied Europe, based on a memoir. So while we've seen lots and lots of movies about Jews hiding from Nazis, so is there any more to add there? I don't know, but
good. Yeah.
It got really good marks out of TIFF. So
okay.
So yeah.
Well, I think we should call it, just because I'm worried my power is going to go out or my internet is going to get worse than it is. Luckily, I'm plugged in. But thank you, everyone, for listening. As you can see, we're doing this live. We will start trying to do that as much as possible. I'll try to give everyone at least a half an hour heads up, or even earlier if I can, on our socials, which you can go follow, Instagram and all that. So thank you, everyone, for listening and watching.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Hollywood Persona podcast. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at The Hollywood Persona. Feel free to email the show at thehollywoodpersona@gmail.com and make sure to rate, share, and follow on whatever platform you're listening to our show on. It's the little things that help. Thank you.
And you little shithead, you're staying here.
Okay. Goodbye.